Good evening. My name is Jordan Freeman. I'm currently a third-year resident at Northside Gwinnett in internal medicine, interested in going into hospital medicine. I've been a member of MAA for 2 years now, and today we're covering disability insurance for residents and fellows. I'm here with Troy Hutchinson from MAA Silver sponsor Capstone Financial Advisors.
Great, Dr. Freeman. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here, everybody.
Happy to have you.
So I thought we might, start. I didn't know if you had a few questions or thoughts about disability insurance. And I've been working in Atlanta with residents, fellows, and doctors since 1991. Pretty good chance that some of your attendings might know me. I'm a little older than most of the residents and fellows today, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Sure, absolutely. To start, can you tell us what long-term disability insurance is and why we should consider it as residents and fellows?
Yep, great question. Great simple question to start off with. Long-term disability insurance is a type of insurance that protects your job, and with doctors specifically, their specific profession or specialty in the event that you become sick or injured and are unable to work. So in its simplistic term, most simplistic terms, it's a type of insurance that protects your paycheck.
I see. Okay. So we have a group long-term disability policy through our residency program. Does an individual policy replace this group policy or add on to it? And why is it important to have both of these, if so?
That's a good question too. Oftentimes when I have conversations with residents and fellows, they'll say, well, I can't buy any individual or private, what we refer to as private disability insurance. I can't buy any private disability insurance because I've got a group policy here at the hospital or in my training program. But in fact, the insurance industry is keen to sell to or market to residents and fellows because they want to give them the opportunity to become clients at an early stage. And also, and most importantly, they want to give the doctors the ability to protect their future income. So with the private insurance companies, they're really not concerned what kind of group insurance you have through the program. They'll sell you disability insurance on top of that group. And in the event that something were to happen to you while you were in training, actually both would pay. They also will sell you insurance as a first-year as a first-year physician. So your first year out of training, they will provide a disability insurance policy for you as well. And they're not concerned or questioning what kind of group disability policy you have at that point. However, and we may cover this in a little bit, but as you progress in your practice, the longer you get out from training, and then you try to buy disability insurance in the future, the insurance companies are going to want to know what kind of long-term disability insurance you have provided through your work. And at that point, then they will offset the amount of disability insurance that they're willing to sell you by whatever group insurance you have through the practice. So it's always better to buy it when you're young, when you're healthy, when you're in training, or within the first year of getting out of training. It's kind of a long-winded answer to a short question.
It's very helpful.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. So say that we are interested in disability insurance. What are the different provisions that we should look for when evaluating policies and things for ourselves?
Yeah, I would say that any physician who is inquiring about long-term disability insurance is probably going to hone in on the most important provision that long-term disability insurance provides, and that's the occupation-specific language contract, or in terms of, you might hear it called ONOC protection. And that's the type of coverage that protects you in your medical specialty. So in just simplest of terms, if you're disabled and unable to practice medicine in your medical specialty, but you can go do something else. Even if you earn more money doing that other thing, the insurance company is still on the hook to pay you your disability benefit, even though you're working and even though you may be working in another occupation at that time. So that's occupation specific language. And the thought behind that is that you spend 4 years in medical school, you spend 3 to 4 to 7 to 10 years in specialty training. You got a lot on the line if something were to happen, and it's not as fulfilling a life to be a burger flipper as it is to be an internist. So the insurance companies give doctors the ability to protect their specialties. The other thing that's important to think about in terms of what provisions are available and what you should consider, I would give two. One would be called a future purchase option. So one of the things that we can pretty well guarantee is that you're going to start out at a specific salary, and as you go along, in your practice, that income is going to go up, and you want to be able to buy more long-term disability insurance in the future without having to take any medical exams. So, for instance, if you get high blood pressure on the way, or you get cancer along the way, the insurance company cannot deny you any future coverage as your income goes up. The other provision that I think is important is a provision called catastrophic long-term disability. And basically what that means is that we're kind of getting into definitions here, and I'm sorry, but if you were to become disabled and qualify for a disability, and you're getting paid a claim, and you also have that proverbial catastrophic claim where you lose the use of your legs, you can't walk anymore, you use the use of your hands, you can't operate anymore, you can't use your hands, you can't feed yourself, you can't see, you lost your eyesight. The insurance company will waive the waiting period for disability and pay you an extra amount of money on top of whatever the basic disability benefit that you bought would be. And it's usually double whatever you bought. So if you buy $5,000 a month of benefit, the catastrophic benefit will pay you another $5,000 a month. It's basically how that operates. There are other provisions. How long does the disability insurance company, or how long does the disability policy pay? To age 67 is kind of standard in the industry, but you can have a to age 65 benefit, or you can have a to age 70 benefit. And the prices are going to be, different depending on how much risk the insurance company is taking, given the period of time that they have to pay. And then the last one, which is it's pretty standard, is your elimination period, and that means the amount of time that you have to be disabled before your benefit will kick in. And you can get 31-day or 90-day or 60-day wait, or even a 6-month waiting period. But the 31 or 30-day and the 60-day are pretty expensive, and the 6-month waiting period is not significantly less than the 90-day. So most people end up getting a 90-day elimination period, which essentially means you have to be disabled for 3 months before your benefits start to kick in. So those are the real provisions that you need to be looking out for.
Okay. It's all very helpful. You kind of touched on the different specialties. So I imagine it would be different for me with internal medicine compared to a surgeon. Can you kind of touch on how it differs between specialties, and are there companies that specifically work with one specialty or another?
Yes. So some companies, I hate to use the word specialize, but some companies specialize in working with various doctors who have certain specialties. So surgeons are typically one company may be preferred over another company because you're a particular type of surgeon. But the bottom line is in that occupation specific language. So let's take an internist as an example. If you're an internist and you're in your internal medicine residency, and you buy a disability policy, you're going to be covered as an internist. However, if at the end of your internal medicine residency you decide to go be a gastroenterologist or you decide to go be a cardiologist, then you don't have to buy a new policy. The definition of disability will just transform into whatever you're doing at the time you become disabled. Does that make sense? So and the premiums won't change. So when you buy it, there's no cost increase, or now I'm a cardiologist when I was an internist. So the premiums will remain the same. However, the difference between the price differences between say a cardiothoracic surgeon or an internal or an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, those premiums are typically a little bit higher than some of the other internal medicine, family practice, non-invasive procedure type specialties. Does that make sense? Good. Okay.
So
good.
kind of along those lines, many of us, I guess all of us, hope to never become disabled. So what are our chances of actually becoming disabled and staying disabled?
Yeah, great question. So we differentiate it between men and women. Don't shoot the messenger, but men have a 43% chance of being disabled during their working life. And that's a disability that lasts at least 90 days. And women have a 54% chance of being disabled during their working life. So it's a little bit higher chance of becoming disabled for women. And again, that's a disability that lasts at least 90 days. And that's the bad news, a pretty high, opportunity of being disabled. The good news is it's a very low probability that you will remain disabled. So most people go back to work after 3 to 5 years in full capacity, and most people go back in a partial capacity as well. I should have mentioned earlier, in some of the provisions that are important to look for, a partial disability benefit is key. So, but most advisors won't, if they know what they're talking about, aren't going to put a disability policy together for a physician that doesn't have partial disability in it. So, does that answer your question?
That's
okay, good.
Say I'm interested in purchasing some long-term disability. How much can I purchase, and what does the pricing look like?
That's another great question. So it depends on a lot of factors. It depends on your age, it depends on your health, and it depends on what your occupation is. So as an example, we were talking earlier, if you're, and also for residents, it depends upon what year in or residency you're in, as to how much benefit you can actually get. So like a first year medical resident, the amount of disability insurance that they would be able to buy would be $5,000 a month of coverage, which is quite a bit. A last year a medical resident or a fellow or a first year practicing physician will be able to buy $7,500 a month of disability benefit. And I think I didn't answer all of your question. What was the other?
How much does it cost?
Oh, how much does it cost? Yeah, great question. So it depends on, your health. So each one of these policies, and I'm not trying to be evasive, but each one of these policies is actually tailor made and generated for each specific client. So it depends on your age and it depends on your health. So somebody that's 30 years old and in perfect health is going to have, a marathon runner rate, and their costs are going to be as low as they can possibly be, versus somebody who might be 40 years old and has high blood pressure. So there's no way I can tell you, hey, it costs this much. It's variable depending upon a lot of factors.
So, it's sounding a little bit like life insurance.
It's life insurance that protects against you becoming disabled, where life insurance protects against you dying from your disability. Yeah, but it's priced like life insurance.
So does this require medical exams, or are there any chronic conditions that are not necessarily favorable for disability insurance?
Um, yes, they require medical examinations. And that's usually a pretty simple process. It's called a paramedical exam. And it's usually a nurse that comes by your house or to your office. For medical residents, they're not going to come to the hospital, whatever, y'all are too busy, but they come by your house on the weekends, and they'll do take a blood and urine specimen and ask you a bunch of questions. There are also personal history interviews. The insurance company is going to want to talk to you. I'm going to fill out your medical questions, and they're going to call you on the phone and make sure I answered all the questions correctly. And that's called a personal history interview. So it's a pretty simple process. It doesn't take very long. Fill some paperwork out, get an exam, and generally it takes about a month to hear back from the insurance company, depending on how hard it is. If you got a bunch of medical records out there, then they've got to go reach out to your prior physicians and get copies of your medical records, and it takes time to get those. That can delay the process as well. So,
Okay. Well, this has all been very helpful. I think this is something we don't really discuss in medical school, and we don't really think about disability this early on in our careers as residents and fellows. I had one last question for you. Is there any advantage to buying long-term disability through the Medical Association of Atlanta? And how can someone contact you if they have questions or wanted to get a quote?
well, yes, I mean the Medical Association is offering free memberships to those to anybody who's a resident or a fellow, and we have a discounted program available. Our insurance companies are offering discounts to residents and fellows of between 20 and 30%, depending upon what kind of doctor you are, and basically it's just in some of the provisions that are in the policy that I could go over individually. But you're always welcome to call me at 678-323-2405, extension 1, and I'll be happy to talk to you. I can get you some quotes prepared and email them over to you, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have about disability insurance. And when and if you're ready, I'll be happy to take you to the next step, which to actually apply and hopefully get the contract put in place for you. Does that make sense? Not too scary.
Not too scary. Well, this has been very helpful. Thank you for coming and talking with us. Again, this has been very informative.
Good. Thank you. It's my pleasure, and I've enjoyed doing it, and I hope I can be of some help.
All right. Thank you again.